A quorum.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City of Isani City Council Committee of a Whole meeting for Tuesday, September 17th. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could all rise for Pledge Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Oh, it's not on this. I realized, Miss Wood. Yep. Okay. As I'm standing there looking at the wall, I recalled it. Roll call. Everybody is present, minus Councilman Collison, and I'm assuming Councilman Burgley is going to be late. Councilman Collison is out sick. I told him we didn't want to catch what he had, so he could stay home. So, with that being said, let's move on to item D1, Public Works Update. Mr. Matt Sylvester.
Okay, this is what, whoa, that's loud. Public Works been up to lately. As far as streets go, we added 500 tons of gravel to Tyler Street, Storm. As the leaves have started to drop, fall street sweeping has begun. They've made it through the entire town once now, so it's kind of just, we'll wait for more to drop and they'll be back out there again. As far as sewer goes, all the air release valves have been flushed for the third time this year. The filters at the wastewater treatment facility are being bypassed. The line from the blower building has been breaking down, causing flakes to break away from the pipe and plug under drain during a backwash. The MPCA was out in July and did an annual walkthrough of the wastewater treatment plant. They have not been here since 2014, and their comments were they're impressed with our facility and operations when they were out. Water staff continues to address OSHA issues as they come up. Parks, staff made it through another successful season consisting of street dances, Jubilee Days, Celebrate Isani. Bluebird Park refurbishment was completed in time for Celebrate Isani Day. Riverside Park curbing has been completed, the park curbing around the playground. The south doors at the community center have been replaced. Unity Park upgrades were completed by replacing the bollards with large boulders over there, so that's a big difference over there. Public Works is fully staffed, adding Brandon Brown and Brandon Doubt to the Public Works team. And Public Works is working with the Rum River BMX to resolve any OSHA issues or concerns that they have.
Awesome. Any questions by the council?
I had a question. So the filters that are broke down, is that a problem that we have to get fixed, or is that,
Yes, it's going to get fixed probably after the first of the year.
okay?
And they're kind of going to change the process. Right now, the backwash blower is in a different building, and it's the pipe that goes from that blower to the actual filter room that's breaking down. So they're actually going to just likely not even use that pipe anymore and put the actual blower inside the wastewater treatment plant itself and run the plumbing that way.
Okay.
It's be like a shorter course for it to go.
Be surprised, those things are very, the wastewater treatment plants and water treatment plants are very, very corrosive. Stuff eats everything and anything.
Yeah.
And it's, and I wouldn't even say it's broke down, it's probably, the maintenance, it's just something that has to be done.
Yep.
Let's make note. Councilman Burgley has arrived.
So noted.
Moving on to
OSHA issues at the Rum River BMX, what kind of issues would there be that would come
Well,
up? Or is there
Safe
anything
Assure
in
was out, did
particular?
an annual walkthrough recently, so it was like, I mean, for them, a lot of it is extension cords, spill containment, a lot of little stuff for them over there with some fire extinguishers need signage. There's a lot of that going on over there. Just a lot of, I haven't got the full report back from Safe Assure yet, but I did meet with Larry Merkowitz and Sean Wilson at the BMX and talked to them before Safe Assure came out and just did a quick walkthrough and just see if anything stuck out, and they were more than willing to fix anything on their end. And it was just kind of, we just need to let them know what Safe Assure came up with when they give us their report.
Okay.
But very receptive to doing anything over there.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Thanks, Mr. Sylvester. Moving on to item D2, speed limit discussion. That was brought up by Councilman Collison, who's not present at this time. Him and I kind of touched base a little bit on it. As I was explained to, we have 60 signs at 55 of them need to be changed. Is that correct, Mr. Sylvester?
I counted, right now, there's currently approximately 60 speed limit signs in town, and if we had to replace all the speed limit signs to the 25, it'd be at each corridor, entries off of Whiskey Road, Heritage, those signs would add up to 55 signs.
Should roughly probably be about $3,500 in just changing signs alone.
Approximately.
Mr. Cook?
Actually, I was looking into this a little further, and I guess there's some more elements that maybe are worth talking about, but one of the major elements are what's defined as the roads that the city is allowed to make this change without going through a more extensive process. And the definition of a residential roadway that falls under this is roads that are less than a half mile in total length, or in other roads that are zoned exclusively for housing that is not a collector or arterial street. So essentially, not only would it have to be every street that leaves a county or state road, it would have to be every road that leaves a collector street within our own system, and any street that's a half mile long or more within our system. So now we're looking at, all of our interconnecting city streets would all have, they would still have to be 30, or they'd have to go through a whole separate study, and all of those would need their own signage off of it.
At first, I understood what Councilman Collison was griping about. I completely understand it. People are obviously driving way too fast in our residential areas. It sounded like a great idea to lower this to 25, but this sounds like more of a mess than any of us want to get into. A lot more money, too, than I'd like to spend.
And it's not just that. I think it would tax our police department, because I don't care if the speed limit's 30 miles an hour or it's 25. People are gonna be going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit no matter what. That's just human nature. And, I mean, you get on 65, you get on 35, speed limit's 65 on 65, and they're doing 75. You get on 35 and it's 70 and they're doing 85. I mean, it's just, out in front of my street alone, it's, Miss Simon can even contest to that too, is it's 30 miles an hour in there, and those people are doing 40. It seems like they are. They're going a lot faster than 30. And there's a lot of kids out there.
Here's the false perception, and I learned it because of the first year as a resident within the city. I live on Main Street, and when you stand on Main Street, it looks like every car that's coming down Main Street is flying. And after standing there with actually one of IPD's officers with a radar in hand, and I'm guessing, hey, this one's going really fast, he shot it with the laser, and it was going 28 miles an hour. So when you're standing still and a car is moving, it's going to look, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, it's going to look like it's actually going faster than what it really is, right?
I'd say you're correct. We did, before Dan Collison, or Councilman Collison brought it up, I wanted to look at those speeds in the neighborhoods and had our officers do 30-minute speed surveys in different residential. That's in your packet there. And if in that study, there was 3.2% of the cars are going over 35. So that was the outliers there, and then the average speed was 22 miles an hour in our residential neighborhoods. Granted, I'm sure there are times where there's cars that are driving faster than the supposed speed limit, but just in the areas that our officers looked at it and took the time for those 30 minutes over a period of, I think, 2 weeks, the speeds weren't that relatively high. Like I said, there's 3.2% were over 35 miles an hour on the residential speeds.
I mean, and in our packets, it's almost close to 300 vehicles that you did a study on. Not very many of them, if I'm reading it right, was actually 30 plus.
Correct.
I mean, there are some, but not very many.
No, not many. Like I said, if you look at the total number, over 30 miles an hour, they're 20%, around 22% were over 30 miles an hour, but most of those were at 30, 31, 32, and there wasn't very many that were over 35 at all.
I do believe it's gonna be a very costly thing to do, and I don't know if it's gonna be well worth it, in my opinion.
I think it, go ahead, Paul.
Well, I do think that one of our focus is neighborhood traffic enforcement, more of a visual presence. Granted, we know as soon as we drive by and they don't see an officer, they might not slow down. But I was surprised by the speed survey that we did, that there was only those 3% that were over 35. Granted, it only takes one car at 40 miles an hour to cause a problem, but even at 25 miles an hour, I think you're still gonna have those outliers in that same high speed range. You know, so lowering the overall speed limit won't necessarily stop those people that are going 40. They're gonna go 40 and a 25 or 40 and 30, and we're gonna cite them if there's a 25 or a 30. So lowering that speed limit isn't gonna change the high end of those few outliers.
I also think once he's fully staffed, I think he'll have the proper manpower and/or tools to get tighter, I guess you could say, on rules, laws, and regulations as far as traffic law enforcement goes.
Well, definitely. I mean, we're down 2 full-time officers right now. Hopefully one will be coming on here in a few weeks. We just hired another full-timer just started today. We were 3 full-time short. So with that, obviously that's 2,080 hours, 6,000 some odd hours that we don't have, that we will have by the end of the year. Put some of those hours into each neighborhood, that should have some positive effect within our traffic in the neighborhoods.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's the people that are gonna drive like idiots are gonna drive like idiots, whether it's 25 or 30. I mean, you know, I was complaining about speed in front of my house too. So, you know, I mean, I've been there too. So, I did see some signs the other day that says, you know, drive like your kids live here or something like that. Maybe we could just, you know, instead of doing this whole thing here, maybe we could just put a few of those up around town where people are coming in and out of town. And, you know,
Those are actually purchased by the resident, I believe.
well, that was, yeah, right. But I'm saying maybe we put 4 signs up instead of changing 60 signs and just remind people, hey, drive careful. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, right. Just makes you think that, yeah, I mean, if my kids lived here, I would want to drive careful. So, I mean, that might be something that, you know, we could pay for 4 signs instead of paying for 55 signs or whatever and going through this whole process. But, I mean, I don't think we should do this, though.
I don't think changing the speed limit is what we should be doing, so. I think the direction we'll go with this, Miss Wood, is we're not going to change the speed limit. We're open to any suggestions other than changing that speed limit. I mean, it's going to be pretty costly to the city. I think we all agree to that. We all want everybody to slow down. I'm a firm believer once Chief Myers is fully staffed, things are going to get, I don't like using the word tighter, but he's going to have a lot more officers on the streets to make sure that, you know, all these laws and rules and regulations are followed to the T. And I think once that happens, I think people will learn one way or the other to slow down in the city of Isani. Anybody have anything further to add or discuss on that item? I've seen them, but you're saying buy them by the bulk and do what? We should look a little further into that and see what they cost. I mean, for all we know, those things can be outrageously priced too. Everything seems to be these days.
So Mayor and Council, I think I will defer over to Jason again on this item because those signs are very similar to the children at play signs. And there's been studies done on the effectiveness of those and whether they're engineer recommended or not because of the impact and the false sense of things. But I don't know, Jason, have you seen those specific signs?
Well, yeah, I guess I've seen these, you know, as long as it doesn't even remotely look like a regulatory sign, some of these signs that are placed on their own stakes and things versus on a city post that's gonna conflict or overwhelm a driver with.
Well, these
the
are
other signs.
professional signs, Jason, but they set on the ground, and it looks very professional, and it says,
Like your kids are here.
"Drive like your own kids live in this neighborhood."
Sure, so, I mean, it's basically, because it's not a city, I guess owned or regulated sign, if it is a city-owned sign, I guess if they're just setting down somewhere, I'm not sure how that would even work out, but, as long as they're kind of spaced over 50 feet from our normal signs, so there's no conflict, and there's studies about overwhelming drivers with, too many signs in a row, and they stop reading things or missing things, and turns into it makes sense, as long as there's an open space to place it. I don't think there's a problem with it.
I think what Mr. Burley was referring to, and I would have to concur with it, is see if we could find some place to purchase them, put in the Isanian that the Isanian has these signs for sale. If you would like to put them in your neighborhood, contact whatever, come in and purchase one, and they put it in themselves. That's what you're referring to?
Get enough interest?
Yep.
I'm not afraid. I'll go knock on their door and ask them where they bought it.
Mayor and council, I'm sure that we'll be able to track it down of where signs like that, we can bring it back to maybe the whole for further discussion.
What
on
the cost
some
is.
looks, or, what they look like, the cost, maybe Jason, I'll work with Jason on, if those are, they're not regulatory sign like you say, but.
Nah,
let's
they're
make sure
just
that-
reminder signs.
Yeah.
But maybe the more the community makes the community aware of by putting them signs around, you never know until you try, I guess.
Concur.
I'm still confident when the police chief gets a full staff, though, That being said, yes, Ms. Wood, if you would check on that, and Mr. Cook, that'd be highly appreciated.
Will do.
Moving on to item D3, Whiskey Road Walk Infill Report. Mr. Cook.
So I believe everybody should have a copy of the report from 2016 that we did. If you flip to one of the last pages, there's kind of a aerial view of what the improvement would look like. It's Appendix B. So what we found is the overall interconnectedness of this segment really does only miss this 2.5 blocks. Otherwise, the whole run, there is walk along that side. But I guess it's not the close-up view, but if you look along Whiskey Road on that figure, parcel 824 and 825 Cedar Street have a bumped out property line, and that property line sticks out too far to be able to wedge a trail in between the property line and the road edge, much less being within clear zone requirements of the county where they wouldn't allow it. So we'd be forced to put that trail or walk along the through line of where the walk would go, or where the other right-of-ways are. These two just specifically didn't actually turn over the right-of-way. All they have is a utility easement that would take it that wide. And so there isn't essentially jurisdiction from what I see of being allowed to put a walk in there, because it isn't a roadway easement or a walk easement. So those two would essentially need to provide the city with an easement to be able to put it in there. We did go speak with both residents, and I have a little summary in that memo, but it essentially, one was strictly against it, no interest in payment for getting an easement or allowing anyone in any shape, form going along his property line. He referenced having been approached previous times every couple of years for the last 6+ years of people coming and asking him, and he's just been adamant that he doesn't want it. The other resident wasn't excited about it, but the possibility of payment for an easement was at least something that they were, would at least possibly consider. We didn't obviously get into dollar amounts or anything, but just their general thought on the topic. So they never actually got back to me on, once Jody had discussed it with her husband, she never got back to me on if they'd be interested. But essentially with even the one property blocking it, I don't know the legal side of where it'd have to go if you still wanted to proceed with it. It'd be a eminent domain type of a thing to try and force it through, or you can attempt to coax them or have discussions with them separately.
One of them you said would be at least willing. The other possibly. So hopefully that possible turns into a definite. And I hate to do it, but I would eminent domain the other. Yeah. This city has a lot of children and their safety to be worried about. And that is part of the reasoning this council wants that sidewalk put in. And I don't want to have push come to shove, but obviously he's going to make it that way. So I would entertain if we found out the numbers here and went to that resident that was thinking about possibly letting it happen, and hopefully cross our fingers that individual said, yeah, okay, let's put the sidewalk in, and we met halfway is what I'm trying to say. Then we'd have to eminent domain the other. That's all I could see happening. I hate to do it, but it's for the safety of everybody's children in the city.
Is his issue that he doesn't want people walking on his property?
Yeah, I guess he cited, not wanting people near his property, mentioned that there'd be more garbage being left. I don't know what that would be.
I wonder if it's possible to address him with the fact that we could put a privacy fence where they can't get through there.
No, yeah, that topic came up as well. He said that the last mayor was there, he'd mentioned the possibility of a privacy fence, and he was just anti anything.
Obviously, it doesn't matter who's sitting in this seat or your seats. He's not going to budge. It's the sense I get.
That was how quickly he responded with his opinion, yeah.
Just have a problem with the cost on it, the $95,000 to do 5 lots of sidewalk. We've been living with it this long. It should have been done when they did it, when they had all the machinery and tools and stuff out there to do it in the first place. That's when they should have done it. But now, now $95,000, we're getting by with it. We've been getting by with it for who knows how long, and I
The whole problem is the kids don't walk on the sidewalk. They walk down the street. Whiskey Road is one of the worst roads in the city of Isani, in my opinion. I think Heritage Boulevard or County Road 5, whatever you want to call it, is better than Whiskey Road is.
We have sidewalk on the other side of the street, and I know that, you'd prefer to not have that happen, but
A lot of the other people live on the other side where there is none.
And there's not a through sidewalk, Councilman Gordon, that goes, even on the other side, it cuts off right at Thomas Landing, Martin's Landing. I don't know why I thought it was Thomas.
yes, that doesn't go all the way through either, so then they're
But
still.
but the other side does,
Right.
and that would be more structural for them to use that side of the street.
Yeah.
Either way, they're crossing the street right
Correct.
now. So whether we fix this or not, somebody's gonna have to cross the street. So I think we've been getting by with it. 95,000, I don't think we need to spend the money right now.
I guess just to add 2 little pieces, that 95,000 was from the 2016 estimate, so it'd actually be more like 107, I guess, at inflation rates for a 2020 project. That does include crosswalk signage on the county road to make those 2 cross connections in that dollar amount, but just to give the details.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree, but what are we gonna do? did. Mr. Cook went out and talked to him.
I guess I'd like to find out. I guess the biggest thing is, that, you know, Mr. Cook goes over there and he's like, nope, I want nothing to do with it, and turn around and walk away. That's not resolving any matters with anybody. I'd like to know, okay, what's your issue with this, other than there being garbage? But if we put a privacy fence up where you can't get the garbage in your yard and people can't go into your yard, but if it's the same gentleman that I'm referring to, he mows his lawn 3 times a year. And technically, he's in violation of city code right there.
We're gonna get the same result no matter who goes to his door, but I'd give it a whirl. I'm just worried, Councilman Gordon, that we skip over. I know it's costly. I know, I get it. What is it gonna take though? One of these children to get run over? Then we should have, darn it, we should have
Can't
put it
just
in.
bring that up every time you're losing an argument, you know? I mean, you can't just do it for the children as a justification to do everything. Stuff costs money, and the taxpayers have, it's a lot of money to spend. We've been dealing with it. We haven't had issues, no matter what you do on this spending here. Somebody's crossing the street either way, so. Yeah, I mean, I want the kids to be safe, but I mean, that's not justification to just spend money
It
willy-nilly.
wasn't done back when it was done, when all that was done, is why it dead ended. It was the same reason we're having discussion right now. He does not want it. There was two residents, both of them were dead set against it, and that's where it ended. And they weren't going to budge. Obviously, the one is still there, the other one's moved on.
Two.
I'm with Paul too, that I don't like the idea of eminent domain either.
I don't either.
I understand it has to happen if it's gonna happen, but I'm with Paul on that too.
I think the
Nor do
direction
I.
we should go on is maybe Mayor Johnson should have a conversation with him.
Thanks for throwing me to the wolves.
Well, your personality is. I guess, like I said, I'd like to find out a definite, other than saying, I mean, that's just like somebody asking me something. Nope, I don't want it. Why? I don't feel like giving you an answer, and that should be acceptable. I just don't accept those kind of answers myself. So,
We're all like that some way. I have people walk in my office and I don't want to deal with them. No solicitors allowed. People put that on the door. I'm just saying that people do that in certain situations where adults don't want to listen to them.
Don't ever do that. Okay. I'll hear you out. I'll just tell you I'm not interested.
I guess at this point, it's kind of a moot point to argue and discuss it until we find out definites and, even if it doesn't get done. Well,
I would like to get the bottom line cost, Mr. Cook. Today's cost.
Just,
I said a guess.
He's a guesstimate. I would like the total numbers. And then I'd like to, if this council wants me to go talk to the gentleman, I'll go talk to him. If I can't get him to budge and I come back saying the same thing, then see what the council says then.
I mean, we don't have to do it today. I mean, we could always budget it for future. I mean, I get what Mr. Gordon's talking about. It's a lot of money to swallow. But
I'm
I've
not
also
disagreeing.
I've also seen us throw money into something that far worse than that, but I mean, it's a moot point at this moment because this gentleman isn't gonna allow it unless we were to go to the eminent domain. I wouldn't wanna do that if we don't have to, but it is definitely an option. So, I mean, at this point, I guess we have to figure out hard numbers, sure, and find out what we can do to get this gentleman to budge. Other than that, it's a dead issue. It is my it is my pet project. This thing has been on my thorn on my side for 10 years. You went down Railroad Avenue. That was done because I pushed for that. There was no sidewalks there, no lights. They're there now. And that was huge. You drive down there at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night when it's dark out, you would never believe how many people walked that road at night, and you couldn't see them.
Darn thing.
So, I mean, let's be realistic. I mean, our infrastructure and sidewalk system is very important to the city. A lot of people walk. I see people walk by in front of my place. I don't even know where they come from, and they're walking through there. And they're out walking. They're out using our sidewalks. They're out doing what's we want our citizens to do. And if you don't give them something to walk on, it's not a good thing. And I'm not just going to say for the safety of the kids. I'm going to say safety of anybody out there. Ski Road is terrible.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there any way of doing this with crosswalks and that type of thing? Like you cross over here at
There's existing
Flintwood,
crosswalks already there, Councilman Burgley.
but aren't they all the way down by the?
Now, if you see on the bottom of your page, you see existing crosswalk, and then you go up to the top of the blue line there, and it says existing crosswalk.
I'm wondering if we could add more. That's my question. I know I've been out there. I bike out there all the time. I'm on my bike. I go to the community garden. I go up and down Whiskey Road all the time on my bike, and I cross out all there all the time. And so I know where the crosswalks are. I'm just wondering if you can put them up. If you put one by Birch Street or something, so then people go across and walk there and avoid this area altogether.
But then we have the issue, are they really going to comply to that crosswalk? And that would be another discussion with Chief Myers, and we know where that's going to go.
Like I said, it's a dead issue at this point unless we can.
We're just looking at, yeah.
I don't think adding crosswalks is going to make any difference.
I don't either.
I don't believe that's just going to be money thrown away.
Well, I think the school would beg to differ. That's why they have crosswalks down there by Main Street and bring their kids across and bring their cross guards out there. And
They don't abide by that sometimes.
I'm not saying they do. Well, I mean, you could put a sidewalk in here and people could still run down the middle of the street. I mean, you know, I go biking and cars will yell out at me, especially teenage drivers. They'll yell at me, "Get on the sidewalk!" And then you go on the sidewalk, and the people walking say, "Aren't you supposed to be on the street?" You know, and so, I mean, I'm just saying that there's no right answer all the time for anything. You could throw the best system out there, and people aren't going to always abide by it. So,
I think getting solid numbers would be
Start.
a start.
I
And I
agree
think
with that.
if that's what the council wants is me to go talk to the gentleman, I'll go talk to him.
So Mayor and Council, just to reiterate, so you're gonna talk to the homeowner. Jason will work on getting revised current construction numbers. And then just so the mayor and council knows that if there was any to be discussions on possibly purchasing that strip from the homeowner, we would be able to go into closed session as you guys discussed a potential purchase of land, just so you know if that came to that time.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good. Mr. Cook, if you wouldn't mind giving me that gentleman's information in an email, that would be awesome. Moving on to D4, employee health insurance benefits, provider change. This is Miss Cook and Miss Brooks. I'm sorry, Miss Wood and Miss Brooks. Yeah, I'm
Cook wood.
Cook Wood, same thing. Cook Wood.
Wood could cook.
If wood could cook, or the woodchuck would.
It was going to come around to a woodchuck.
All right, so we have talked to our benefits consultants about possibly moving away from the co-op, which is what the city has right now for health insurance. And we've entertained the option of moving to PEEP, which is Public Employees Insurance Program. So over the last few years and the projected amount of increase that we're looking at for the next 5 years is around 9.3%. We've had significant increases in the past, which has in turn made our insurance rates higher, which has affected the budget. So if we look at PEEP, they have a long history of less than 3% increases for coverage, which is a huge impact for our city staff. Currently, what we're paying for the co-op is over $500,000. And if we move to PEEP, that's going to save us around $141,000. So some of the benefits for switching to PEEP, and we would also provide an HSA account with that. It would save the general fund approximately $102,000. The tax levy could be lowered by approximately $102,000. The enterprise funds would be positively impacted approximately $40,000. And the levy change would decrease the projected tax rate increase from 9.7% to 6%. So to offset the max out of pocket, we would give the employees HSA money to,
Matching their out-of-pocket?
sorry, what?
Matching their out-of-pocket?
Yes. So even with moving to the plan and providing the HSA, we would still be saving a significant amount of money for the taxpayers.
Is staff, I mean, it's the same coverage, basically the same coverage that they're receiving now?
So Mayor and Council, there are some changes in the coverage. Basically, it comes to paying the depending on what type of plan, there would be two plans offered, the HSA and non-HSA. And depending on which plan they chose, they'd be paying their out-of-pocket first before it kicks in for, like, currently we have an 80-20 plan and we have a $30 deductible. It'll go to paying some of that out-of-pocket money up front, and then you're covered. So there is a change. However, we did hold an employee meeting with all full-time employees. We did make it a mandatory meeting because we wanted everyone to be informed on what the potential changes were. There also are a lot of benefits too, and that is saving money for the employee as well as for the city. And I did do a survey to all of those full-time employees, and we received, out of 26 people, we received 20 of those surveys back. Everyone was in favor and said yes, that they thought that the city should explore other options because of the increase that we continually see with our current provider. Everyone was in favor of entertaining the idea of an HSA, which is great because it's something that we don't offer, and a lot of people do like that benefit. We asked the question of, do they want to switch to PEEP, to this new plan? And actually the overwhelming majority was yes, as long as the city contributes to the HSA. So that was really good. If we're concerned about employees feeling like they're not losing out by the city switching and everyone, including the city and them, are saving money, they felt on board. There was only one that did not out of those who voted.
My recommendation would be move ahead, go to PEEP then. If the staff is willing to make that change and it's gonna save us some money in the long run, absolutely.
Beauty of an HSA, in my opinion, is it makes the person receiving healthcare benefits a shopper, because now you choose where your money goes. I mean, when you're on an insurance plan, providers are picked for you, and people call up and say, "Are you on our plan?" And sometimes, just out of my office alone, we have to say no. And I mean, they do have out-of-network benefits, but they're usually not as good as in-network benefits. And so, the HSA, in my opinion, makes people more responsible, and they're starting to look at price, just like we, as looking at insurance plans for our employees, are looking at price. So.
I think the renewal average from the co-op versus the PEEP is crazy. I mean, a 10-year renewal was 6.4%, and PEEP's 10-year was at 2.5. A 5-year was 9.3, and PEEP's 5-year was at 2.7. So it went up 0.2%. I mean, PEEP hasn't been up over 3% in 10 years plus. So we're given the option of an HSA. We're going to save all this money. I'm on board. I say do we have a timeline for this?
So we have open enrollment coming up for the fall, so we do need to decide if we're going to stay in the co-op or move to PEEP, which would be effective in January.
I'm with Councilman Lundin. I say we move forward.
So few other things I have on the memo for other considerations. Right now, we have a waiver for those who are eligible for family coverage but do not take it, and they get $443.75 a month. So we would leave that unchanged because we do have those people who are currently not taking our insurance, so we don't want to penalize them. So we would leave that the same. The HSA amount would be prorated if the employee's eligibility started after the beginning of the year. So if, depending on what you decide for an HSA amount for them to receive, if somebody, say, started in September, they would not get the same amount as the other employees. We would have to have an MOU that would be drafted for the union contracts for the new LELS and 49ers contract that's starting in January as well. So that we would bring that to council. We are working on updating our personnel policy as well now that our new attorney has started. So we would reflect the personnel policy with the changes of our health insurance plan too.
What a handsome guy he is, so.
He does look mighty dapper over there, I have to say.
Anyway, Katie, on that 443.75 that people take that opt out of the plan, do they also get HSA money?
Well, they don't take our benefits. So, no, they wouldn't. Those are the people that it's a waiver. So if you worked for the city and you didn't take the benefits, you get $443.75 a month because you don't have our benefits. Maybe your wife has your benefits or something. I don't know.
Your wife has my benefits. Thank you, Lisa.
So with the HSA, you said that there's a max then that the city contributes?
So the IRS maximum is around 3,000
Okay,
for single
alright.
coverage and 7,100 for family coverage.
Even if everybody maxed that out, we would still save money.
These numbers are with that.
Okay,
Yes,
all right,
that's
awesome.
factored in it. Like
Awesome.
Just one, I'll tell you now, fellas, I'm in one that I'm huge, and I think Miss Wood agrees with me that I believe in retention. We have a great crew right now. For us to make them feel like they are very, very respected and very well needed within our community, I'd be the first one to say, let's max their HSAs out. They're still saving money, and a pretty substantial amount at that.
I'd be all on board with this.
I agree. The majority would say, you're everybody good?
I'm on board. I guess I do question why, if you opt out, why you still don't get HSA money. That seems like a separate thing, HSA money and insurance. So I'm not sure why that
we'd
gets.
still be offer the flex spending plan that we have right now. We could still offer that as well to those who don't take the insurance.
So is the HSA attached to the insurance? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so we would just offer those that don't take the insurance, they get 443, and then we could offer them a flex spending too. Is that what
Yes.
you're saying? Okay.
Correct.
Are you guys in favor of that? I mean, you hate to penalize somebody for
I don't want to penalize nobody.
then
Why change it if they don't get our insurance? We shouldn't change anything. Offer them the same thing they've been getting. There's no gripe that way. And then those that are taking our benefits, we're giving them a fantastic. I signed me up. I want to work for the city.
So do you have an idea what you would like to contribute for the HSA amount? Is that,
I say we max them out.
is that the consensus?
Is that consensus with you, gentlemen?
what do you do with the flex spending? You say keep that the same. What is the flex spending at right now?
Flex spending, the IRS max is $2,700 that you'd put your own money into for paying for medical expenses as well.
So
That does expire
if
at the
they
end of
put
the year.
27 in, we match it?
No, we don't contribute to it. It's just an option, so it's pre-taxed. We have that currently. That won't
That's
change.
how it was currently as well?
Yes.
We just don't change it.
Well, can't you go to, I mean, I've never really set up an HSA, so I don't know, but can you just go down to the bank? It seems like a lot of banks advertise, you can set up your HSA with us type of thing, so.
Or with the insurance company, they're gonna, HSA is gonna be done through their program.
I get that.
But you also gotta realize with an HSA, you have to spend that money in that calendar. The
Nope.
ones that I have been on,
Nope.
I
No.
had to.
This is the benefit
flex-
of this.
A
My
flex
point-
spending
my point
account
is
expires
this.
at the end of the year. The HSA does not.
Correct.
So we'd be
Point is,
having
my point
both
is
as
this,
an
if someone chooses not to take our insurance, why can't they just go over to the local bank, set up an HSA and say, give me the same benefit as Joe Schmo over here who's getting
If-
$2,700? Why can't we just throw money into their HSA account the same?
For example, if I was on family coverage and I did not take or if I was eligible for family coverage, but I did not take the insurance because say my spouse held it for me, I may have an HSA through that to use it.
But what I'm
So-
saying is, why can't we contribute to that as a city? I mean, we're contributing to this guy over here who takes our benefits, I get that, but this guy's not taking our benefits. Why can't we
Because we're
say,
not-
here, we're gonna contribute to yours as well?
Because if
But
someone's
that's
on
the
their
problem. It's their
spouse's
decision
plan,
to make to take it or not.
Oh, I get that. I'm not saying it's not their decision, but what I'm saying is, why can't, if we're trying to be employee, friendly, thank you, then why can't we say, fine, you don't want our insurance, we're gonna give you the money to go buy your own, and then.
We
but-
are.
but
We're still offering them $443.75, and that's current. That's what they.
That's exactly what I just said. It's why can't we just do the same thing with the HSA and fund that as well? If we can give them money to go buy their own insurance, why can't we give them money to fund their own HSA? That's what
Mayor
I'm saying.
Council,
It's just a thought.
I'm just gonna share, so if someone was taking our waiver because, say, their spouse had coverage, if their spouse was not in an HSA plan, there'd be no plan to contribute HSA dollars to. They have to be enrolled in a plan of an HSA.
Okay, so that was my question. So you have to be, but can't you go over to any old bank and just be part
There
of it?
are some private that people can, there are some,
Can I, without a insurance, just go over to the bank and say, I want to contribute to an HSA? Set up an HSA account for me. You're saying I can't, Mike? You have to, it has to be attached to an insurance.
Yeah, to gain that tax benefit from the IRS perspective, you have to have an HSA qualified plan.
Just attached to an insurance plan.
Correct.
Okay, well, that answers the question, then you can't do it then. So,
Concur, I think we should go along. If you want to guys switch to PEIP, go for it. PEEP.
all right, we'll bring this to the next council meeting. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item D5, painting the police department and fire district building discussion. Miss Woods?
So what we had currently budgeted, as was discussed at a prior meeting, was that the PD/fire district building needs to be repainted. That was discussed in 2018. Some quotes were received from, I believe, the following year of 2017. And it was agreed upon that the two parties, I should say, one being the city of Isani, the other being the fire district, would pay equal shares depending on the square footage, not equal shares, but shares dependent on the square footage of the building. It was determined that the PD portion be about $1,900, and then the rest of it, which that's not quite a third of the cost, and the rest of it, though, would be on the fire district to pay for because that's the square footage that they used. This money has been budgeted with inflation in our budget, so it's $2,300 that was included for 2019 for our share of the building. And the fire district board had voted, and they voted to do 50%, was my understanding from Chief Jankovic. And we do not have the funds to pay for that with that percentage, I should say. So looking for direction from council, if it is to remain at the maximum $2,300, what we have budgeted, and the fire district would do the rest, or if there's any other discussions that need to be had about what to do.
One thing I want to add to that lease is the dumbest lease I've ever seen in my entire life. That's a city-owned building, irregardless. The fire department is leasing it. And any lease will tell you that the owner of the building is responsible for the structure. I've known that for 40 years. It's never changed. I would have never agreed upon that lease, period, just the way that was verbaged. That's just retarded. That is the city-owned building, irregardless. If the fire department was to change things inside, they're responsible for that. And that's in any lease given, anywhere. If the fire department is going to pay for half of that painting of that building, we should be looking at it as a gift horse in the mouth. Second of all, if the fire department pays for 2/3 of the painting, the city still ends up paying 50% of that 2/3. We are basically 48% of what we contribute to the fire district. So we're paying ourselves to get money back again. just ridiculous. That thing, that building, if the city wants that building to look decent, I think us splitting it 50-50 with the fire district is a wise choice, and they'd be willing to accept that. I think that's the route we should go on that. Leases, we need to go over this lease again, because that isn't, in my opinion, I would, if I was a personal, private individual leasing a building, I would have never signed that lease, period. Plain and simple. That is not how a lease works.
Councilmember Lindy, I do have lease discussion with the fire district on goal setting for 2020 to discuss the lease, the building, and everything.
Yep, but that's where I stand. The previous, whatever you want to say, whatever, I'm not mentioning names or whatever, I would have never, ever signed that lease. And I think we can find, whatever the difference is going to be, I think we can find it from someplace to pay to paint that building, to get that building painted. That is our fire department. Irregardless, it's our fire department. It's our citizens' fire department. That fire department saves our citizens a lot of money. Their ISO rating is huge. If we were to have something different, that ISO rating would go right through the walls. Bradford Township tried to take out some areas, some places out of the fire district and move it over to Cambridge. One business alone would have cost them $10,000. Insurance, their insurance would have went up $10,000 because using a different fire department with a different ISO rating than what Sandy Fire District has right now. I would think our citizens would be more than happy to see that going to a good thing that's saving them a lot of money on their insurance.
I would have to agree. I think we could find that money somewhere. I think we should 50-50 that. I don't know what you two gentlemen think, but I'm eagerly waiting your opinion.
We've messed with the fire department long enough, and the chief said, had their morale messed with and this and that. I hate to give the fire department any more of a hard time. So, go half, then we should go the other half. So,
Does it really need to be painted?
Oh yeah.
Is it
It
that
does.
bad? And obviously I go there quite a bit, and I've never noticed it. That it was
If you look
really
on the
all that
police
bad of a
department
paint job.
side, it still says City Hall.
Is it?
Yeah.
And it's not just that. The building the block is starting to deteriorate. It should be tuck pointed.
Well, what is it
Of
that
other things that should be done. If putting paint on it for right now is it's, I hate to say it, it's a Band-Aid, but it's gonna make the building look that much better.
Will.
I think that building looking much better also makes the city look that much better. I think we have a vested interest as a city because we own that building.
Right,
I think we should do whatever it takes to make that building look good.
right. I mean, new paint's not gonna make the fire trucks faster or the police department faster or keep anybody safe, but
don't know.
I do agree that we are the landlords, and I agree with you too. I mean, my landlord doesn't pay to, I don't pay my landlord to take care of the building. That's his job. So I do agree with you on that point, but I just have never noticed it being that bad. Maybe I haven't looked at it that close, but yeah, I mean, if we're gonna do it, I think half of it is reasonable. So
I think I'm a stickler of that building. I think I just asked Mr. Sylvester a few months ago to get the trees growing out of the gutters, which you did. And by the way, kudos, looks great. So paying half of this, I don't think would be bad. So I'm getting the consensus that if fire district's going to pay half, then we pay the other.
Okay, Mayor and Council, this will be going back to Council, because I believe it is a variation from what the lease currently states, so that will need to go back, and then with the funding source identified for the remaining funds. And then one last question I do have is the color. So it was previously discussed that the color would match the well house number 1 nearby, which is kind of a tan beige-ish color. And the fire chief would like to paint the overhead doors of the fire district side red. I just want to know if
Talking about the garage doors?
the big
Oh.
overhead fire.
I thought you were talking about all the doors.
Truck
Say, what,
doors.
do we paint the police departments blue or what?
So I just want to make sure that that color scheme is acceptable by council.
It's going to look like a firehouse. I like it.
should put a mural on each door.
A tan goes with a lot of things. I mean, it's
Agreed.
not like it just stands out. And those doors being red, I mean, that's just significant, making it that you know that there's a
It's a
fire
fire,
door, there's
yeah.
a door there and it's an emergency room. I don't see any reason.
I like it.
Just want to make sure.
I like it.
Knowing Al, I knew that you were gonna say red at some point there, because he wants to he wants to make everything red, and probably he'd paint the police department red too if he had his choice, but yeah, that's fine with me.
Blue doors, Chief Myers. Blue doors.
Right?
All right, going forward, D6, spraying weeds on sidewalk discussions. I believe Councilman Lundin brought this up, but Mr. Sylvester has some great input.
So Public Works in the past has addressed the weeds in the sidewalks on Heritage Avenue from Whiskey Road to Credit Union Drive, Main Street from Whiskey Road to Darlene. These have been done without any consistency whatsoever. They've been done a couple times, not any time, not a lot. The areas we do currently spray for weeds is the wood chips in the parks, Unity Ball Field, rocks at Town's Edge, city-owned parking lots, rocks around the liquor store, some cracks in bike paths are sprayed, some are actually maintained with the mower. Downtown pavers are done before a citywide event. Rocks at the water treatment plant, ponds at the wastewater plant, and dandelions are sprayed in the spring. Looking for some more direction or discussion on that.
So I think if we did every sidewalk in the city of Isani, that would be just outright crazy.
I don't think I could do every sidewalk in town.
If we did our main drags,
I
Like
can do
Whiskey?
Whiskey Road, Heritage, those main entry points into town, those sidewalks, I think we should do them.
agree.
All I know is over off of whatever that street is, I don't even know what it is, I'm on Ironwood, the other street that goes north and south there, I can't think of the name of it. That sidewalk looks horrid. The curb and gutter looks horrid. Grass is growing out of every crack. And I'll be honest with you, that isn't doing the sidewalks any good. They're gonna start busting up. I think spraying them, and that helps prevent some of that, I think that's a huge thing to do.
This is coming from a guy that comes over to my house and pulls my weeds all the time, so don't. I mean, he's anal about weeds. He hates them, so he.
It looks terrible. If somebody comes by and they're driving down there, they're gonna look at a house for sale down there, or they're looking at, maybe they wanna move to Isani, and you drive down a side street, going on to look at a house, and the weeds are higher in the sidewalk than somebody's yard is, that's nasty. I debated going over there with a scraper myself and start peeling them out. I mean, that's how much it drives me nuts. I think a simple spraying of these weeds on sidewalks, I mean, granted, it's not every sidewalk is like that in town. But the ones that are having these issues growing up in there, I don't see why that'd be an issue to go out and spray them. I really don't.
Weed police.
We had that.
We can get an award for that, I think.
There's some about this tall on 5 right out here between First and Second that I've been noticing lately too, and I've been, man, why don't we do anything about that? So I think I think we should be spraying at least the main drags for sure.
I agree with the main drags, but I think Councilman Lundin is the road he's talking about is not a main drag.
It's not a main drag.
So maybe Mr. Sylvester, what we could do is definitely do the main drags and then spot check if you or your guys think it's a little overzealous, like Councilman Lundin is saying, and I mean, if it's an eyesore, then maybe spray them, but don't get crazy and do every single sidewalk.
I don't think I can get crazy doing every sidewalk in town, but I mean, the sidewalks and the main drags, definitely I'd make that happen. You know, some of these sidewalks are adjacent to the curb. If we're talking about those ones are a little bit easier to spray, but the sidewalks that go up in people's yards and stuff like that, I'm a little bit leery about spraying those.
Go out with a scraper and peel them out of there or something. I mean, it's gotta look better. Miss Simon knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, he's blaming her.
She lives over there too. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Leave that poor lady alone.
I went out in the crosswalk in front of my house and pulled the weeds out of the crosswalk.
You were literally anal retentive about weeds, though.
And it seems to be that time of year when you get a lot of crabgrass growing all this stuff through those cracks too. This is the time of year when that starts to happen.
Yeah, see, we've seen him in City Hall pulling weeds out here. So I'm telling you, he's like bad with weeds.
Because the weeds are infestation.
Has there ever, Mayor and Council, has there ever been discussion on the homeowner taking part of the sidewalk, just like they do for snow and ice removal after the initial removal from Public Works in that instance, but taking care of weeds? I know some homeowners do because they just like the look and cleanness of it. Has there ever been discussion in the past about having them do that?
Previous
we
council
have
member
no-
we had before would have said, yeah, oh yeah, that's all been in there before, which this is the first time. Ms. Wood, you and I have had this conversation. You were directed by the previous mayor that,
I did take this to committee in the past, and they did not want anything sprayed.
I get what Mr. Sylvester's saying. You go to spray in somebody's yard, and all of a sudden it kills their grass. Their arms are up in a roar. I get it. I mean, I do get it. Then maybe you should go out and get rid of the weeds yourself, you know?
I think that's what Ms. Wood is saying.
Yeah, that's what she's
I
saying.
mean, the curb and gutter isn't their responsibility. It's
We do make it their responsibility in the winter, so.
not the curb and
The
gutter.
curb and gutter.
Oh, not the curb. Wow, I was thinking sidewalk.
But then again, you gotta remember what we had last year when they came through and they said, we knew nothing about salt and sand in the sidewalk.
Oh, geez.
I mean, so do we wanna go down that other trail again?
Let's not.
You know, I mean, I think is if Public Works was to go out and they see some of this that are as bad as what I'm referring to, one weed growing here or there is at the end of the world. But when you look down, it almost looks like another set of yard on the sidewalk because it's so thick. That needs to be addressed, one way or another.
So, main drags, and if it's an eyesore, I would say yeah. I mean, you know, if you're driving around the city and you're like, oh, there's something Councilman Lundin would get out of his van and start pulling, then maybe you need to spray those, Mr. Sylvester. If you knew how anal he was, it's funny. That's why he's laughing too. He literally will stop his vehicle and get out and pull some weeds.
We should put him on Public Works.
That's what I'm wondering. You should be on Public Works, Councilman Lundin, not the council.
There's one of your part-time employees in the summer.
So main drags and spot check. If you see it, deal with it.
Fair enough. Yep,
Thank you, sir.
you're welcome.
D7 draft ORD noise, chapter 216. Chief Myers, this is all yours, sir.
And Mayor and Council, we discussed this at the last committee of a whole. I just took your recommendations on the noise ordinances and addressed those, were specifically the timeframes, and the distances of 100 feet, you know, hearing clearly from 100 feet. There's one more addition on the snow removal that was added to that since we're looking at that ordinance. It was at the recommendation of City Administrator Wood.
You're okay with this, Chief? You think it's going to give you
Well, it gives us.
I want to say a little more teeth, but I want to say a little more.
It just defines a little bit what the noise nuisance would be as far as loud parties and stuff. There's an actual benchmark, is what we talked about the last committee meeting. You know, the benchmark at a certain time frame after 10 p.m., 7 a.m. on weekends, 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. on weekends. Sorry, so between 10 and 7 on weekdays and 10 and 8, or 11 and 8 on weekends. If you can hear that at a distance of 100 feet. So again, it was just your recommendations from the last committee, just put into our draft ordinance.
That's a good idea. Well, that-
Yeah, looks good.
I think it looks great. Yeah. That also fits with some of yours now. So Sunday through Friday, or would it be Sunday through Thursday? It would be a 10 p.m. quiet time in the city of Isani until what time, Chief?
Well, it's 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. on weekdays, 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. on weekends for a person to make loud noise or participate in a gathering that can be heard clearly from a distance of 100 feet.
And with breaking that ordinance could lead into some penalties.
It's your ordinance violation, which is, you know, your
It's a misdemeanor
violation.
violation, okay. Like it. Yeah. Normally, we don't let some people, but if the council's all right with her saying something.
She should come up to the microphone.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the microphone. Do we have one up there? Got to get you on recording, though.
Katie will wire you.
Thank you. With regards to this, I've done some thinking, and, you know, the fireworks issue is, you know, a problem with regards to our noise. And I came up with some ideas of like applying for permits so that, you know, that adds to your revenues and it gives you an idea where the problem areas are. Another thing I came up with is also a sectional neighborhood watch program. I don't know if you have anything like that just in the city, but you know, people are going to be more apt to report these issues, and a lot of the issues that you're talking about tonight as well. And you know, that helps support our police department as well. You know, allowing this to go on is, you know, that's your guys' call. If that's what you want to do, I think the time thing is a great thing, but I also think that, you know, you need to add, you know, what mortars are, what is legal, what is not. He follows me where I go. Stay.
That's an estate ordinance, is it not, Chief?
Yeah, in essence, even if somebody's lighting the fireworks off in town, we would cite them under state statute, not our noise ordinance.
Things can't potentially go boom.
Right, that's already defined in statute as far as what the illegal ordinances are, or the ordinances, meaning fireworks ordinances.
Okay. Well, and like I said, I just want to, you know, help create some solutions to, you know, give peace to our neighbors and, you know, the whole town as far as the whole goes. So, you know, I'm good with that. I mean, if there is a time ordinance and then after that, and, you know, the main thing is we need to get it out there, you know, publicly so that people become aware and have not become so complacent. So,
We've kind of found out that Facebook is a huge communicative tool.
yep.
The police department now has one, the city has one, so we'll plaster it all over the place. We'll get
Great.
it out there.
And I think that's important, and I think a lot of people that I've talked to, they like the idea of that because it's not just my neighborhood that has this problem. And, you know, I think it's, you know, awareness and creating awareness is the most important thing. And, you know, it's for everybody's safety. So, so I'm good with that as far as that goes, and if I can help any further, you know, I'd be more than happy to do that.
And I would like to add, as far as your recommendations, the most important one would be the community watch groups or community engagement groups. Whether it's the fireworks ordinances or any other crime prevention or public safety entity, it's the police department and the community working together is going to
Right.
have way better benefit than just us trying to go out and find the problems.
Right.
So I encourage you, as well as anybody else in the community, to reach out and coordinate with their neighbors. I mean, the key for public safety and quality of life is the interaction between the community and us, not just us trying to go and policing that community.
Right,
So
right.
that is a valid point, and
Right.
I'd encourage everybody to try to get on board with the community engagement with our department together.
And I'm happy to do that. And I have good communication skills, and I'm great at, you know, creating awareness. So that is something that, and I can drop you notes as to what I'm going to do and, you know, put that out there. So, and like I said, and get some media coverage in there and, you know, make it more aware that, you know, that the city is aware of this problem. And so residents can speak up. So, okay, great. And if anything else I can do for you, please let me know.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Chief, is that organized, what she's talking about, their community groups? I mean, do we organize neighborhoods and a community watch to watch out for that type of stuff, or how does that work?
No, we have not in the past. Our community has not participated in actively engaging community watch groups. There are pseudo groups that get together, but I do think that is something we need to try to help facilitate. We tried help facilitating the National Night Out groups. That's just one piece of that. But there's the whole neighborhood watch coordination group. It's going to take some resources that we don't have, which is why we need people like Morgan to step up and take some of those resources and responsibilities.
I taught neighborhood watch in California. I can help you facilitate it. I will do it for free. I can help put it together. I can help you section off the city so you have different groups. And I can teach all the groups as to how they do it. It's simple, it's basic, it's basically reporting. Do not carry weapons as a neighborhood watch. You know, and it's knowing your neighbors and, you know, writing down things, keeping a log. And it's very basic, very simple, and it can really help, not with just this issue, but, you know, sidewalk issues and, you know, areas that are problem areas. And it really actually joins the community and it creates a lot more awareness. And I was very good at it, and I'm more than willing to help you do it here.
Sold.
And stop by my office and
I like the word free, so I would actually encourage Chief Myers. You have cards in the hallway. There's a card of Chief Myers if you'd grab one, Ms. Fedora, or even stop by his office.
definitely.
Do that, sit down, and I'll show you how to make it work, and we can
and then we'll bring it back to the council with approval for resolution.
There you have it. I think we kind of killed two birds with one stone, did we not, Ms. Wood?
Mayor, we did, but I have one more thing on chapter 216. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
I want to clarify, it doesn't, either the color didn't show up or there's some words in here, but in section 216-4A, we wanted to also address a conflict with the snow plowing policy, since we were doing ordinance amendment with the noise hours. So currently, what it states is all snow and ice not removed from public sidewalk 48 hours after the snow or other precipitation causing the condition to cease fall. We don't do that because we do plow the first run with Public Works. So what it would state would be all snow and ice not removed from public sidewalks 48 hours after Public Works has completed removal of a snow event or other precipitation causing the condition has ceased to fall. Just so then it matches exactly what the approved snow plowing policy states. I think that this just never was updated in the past, and so we should do it at this time.
So the red is what you want to add, correct?
Yeah, so I don't have color on mine. So I guess
We
it's
do.
adding it's adding Public Works has completed removal of the snow.
We do.
Because they do the first run.
It's the
adding
red,
that.
fellas. I don't see an issue with that. Do you guys?
That is what our snow plowing policy states, which you will be reviewing that this fall also, but
Can dig it.
Kind of help me understand what this is saying. I'm just reading it now, but so it's saying,
so it's saying that it's a nuisance if the snow and ice is not removed from public sidewalks within 48 hours. However, we believe that it should state that it's removed within 48 hours after Public Works has gone out there. Because otherwise, if Public Works hasn't gotten there, it would basically be telling the residents that they have to still plow the snow off, which our snow plowing policy states that our Public Works does it first.
being a nuisance, that means they're responsible, is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay, thank
Right.
you.
Okay, good. So this will be posted for the required 10 days and then brought to council.
Okay. We can move to D9, the attorney presence at city council discussions or at council discussions. Miss Wood, I could have probably elaborated on that, but
Yeah.
I guess what Miss Wood's looking for is, do we feel like we need our city attorney at every single city council meeting? Or do we want to shift gears and say, there's something on our agenda that we feel would probably need an attorney present for, maybe we should have them at this one or that one. Not necessarily that they have to be here at every single one.
Imagine we'd save some money if we don't.
Yep, so I was just going to say, let me remind you that we do pay for every time our attorney is here.
Also, I
Maybe-
think input from him would be wise.
Maybe we should have him introduced to the group. I've never met him before.
Would like that, if you wouldn't mind keying up and state your name and your new job in the city of Isani, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Mayor, council, my name is Joe Langle. I'm with a firm of Ratwick, Rozak, Maloney, in Minneapolis. In terms of attendance at city council meetings, I've been to quite a few of them over the past 15, 20 years, as you can imagine. And I will say this, that the vast majority of city council meetings that I've been to did not require a city attorney to be there. I have one city that is required to be there by charter, so we have no choice. But otherwise, most cities that I represent only have me come when there's something on the agenda that they feel is either going to be contested or involve certain legal issues or what have you. I initially started going to attorney meetings at two other metro area communities, over 20,000 people each. Both of them over time decided not to have me come anymore for this single purpose of saving money. And those are fairly large, larger communities, and it worked out just fine. They never had a problem with it since. Every once in a while they call up, we got this issue going on. Once you have the meeting, that's fine. It works out quite well. So if you're gonna ask my preference, it would be the latter. It'll not only save you money, I think it's, like I said, most of the time, it isn't necessary to have the attorney at the meeting because the issues just don't come up.
The question is, You're probably better at this than we are. Of course, maybe the staff is better at this than I am, but just would, maybe it'd be a good idea just to send you our votes on the meeting, and you say, oh, I could see a potential for problem here, and
That's our plan, is it not, Ms. Wood? Regardless, we'd send him our agenda.
We would send him the whole packet, Mayor and Council.
Yeah.
So he will have the packet in advance.
If there was
Send us as you
anything that
guys
he
on
felt
Friday.
like
He will be
somebody was going to bite on, then absolutely. Let me point this out. You guys wanted me to sit in the attorney interviews, and I did. I was strong in hiring this gentleman because he told me that he was once fired by a mayor because he was trying to tell that mayor what was legally right. And that mayor fired him for it. So me being me, I don't want a yes man. I want this man. That's why I was for him.
There
If
were a
I'm
couple other
wrong, I want him to
reasons, too.
tell me I'm wrong. So I feel he's very knowledgeable in what he's doing. I feel he's going to tell us if something's on our agenda that I need to be there. Or he would just flat out say, if you guys don't want me there, I don't see a reason to be there. I think he's got the ethics and morals that this city needs.
I guess my point was just that if it's in his opinion he should be there, and we don't pick up on that, I would like
Would
that.
speak up.
I would like that opinion too.
He would speak up.
Okay.
He's here to represent us in the best interest, so,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I would agree. If he feels that it's not necessary to be here, that's why I wanted to hear it from him. I mean, he's gonna tell me, hey, I wanna be a gold digger and take all your money and I'll come. But he's being honest and saying he doesn't see a reason to be here. I have to respect that.
So I guess the consensus would be that he does not need to be at every council meeting unless we or he feels there's something that's a big item on there and we would call upon him, and then we'd expect him to be here.
Understood.
Ms. Wood, was he receiving our, lack of better words, our minutes from every meeting, so he could oversee in case something popped up and somebody said, hey, you know, this is what's been done, and he can say, well, I read this here. Will he receive those?
Yep, he will receive the full packet, which has all our prior minutes. I don't think that anyone gets our draft minutes before they're put on the next agenda, so he would see it as you guys see it first.
Okay.
Yes.
Everything we get sent, he would get sent.
I just want him to be aware of, you know, in case there was a lot of times there is something, I mean, there's 99.99% of the time, most of our agenda, there is really nothing that's gonna flag something. But you may have some citizen that comes in here, we used to get one all the time. You know who I'm referring to. Somebody like that. That's my only concern.
And I think, and I know I will do the best at, as soon as I know if there's an issue that might be coming up, let him know, give the heads up so he can mark it on his calendar that this might be brewing, and if it's not, it's not, but if it is, he's made himself available.
I agree. I think he doesn't need to be here at every one. My opinion.
All right?
We're all agreeing on that.
There's no action to be taken on that because it's not formally written what meetings they attend, so it just was your
Just wanted the
consensus on it.
direction.
Yes.
Fair enough. I'd take a motion to adjourn.
Make a
Nope,
motion.
sorry, Mayor and Council, I'd like to have your item be brought up for the backdrop.
Oh, yes, thank you. So, because we have a new audio video system in this chamber, and I feel like the little sign, we don't use this anymore. I kind of thought this little tiny sign was a little generic for the city of Isani. So what I wanted to do was do vinyl lettering from outlet to outlet in blue. Exactly what you see there. Okay. Then I would take the flags and put one here. I would actually want to add flags. So we would have, I think there's actually an order to this. That we're supposed to have, I believe, U.S. flag, state flag, city flag, POW flag. That would be surrounding us here with our logo in the center of it.
So, Mayor, I did inquire on some cost to that. So a 6 foot wide and proportional height for a decal sign of our logo with the motto on there in City of Isani would be $285. The additional flags in a 4x6 are approximately $40 a piece. And then I haven't nailed down the exact rod. I haven't found one to match that, and we may need to just get a different one, but
4 new ones.
4 new ones, approximately $80, $20 a piece. So for a total amount sum of around $500 to do that.
What I was looking for was, I would like to make that change because it would be 6 feet long.
It's 6 foot wide, which is probably not,
Probably about maybe 2.5 feet tall.
So it'd be
I
6
think it might
feet.
be 2.85 feet, something like that, yeah.
I believe so. Maybe. All I'm doing, Councilman Burgley, is taking that sign and stretching it out on this back wall and getting rid of that sign.
Be a vinyl sign.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. So we would have that logo would be stretched out further on this center of the wall, and then we'd have flag, 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 flag.
4 flags.
4 flags.
If I see any flags.
And I think there's actually an order to that. So it has to be U.S. flag, state flag, city flag, then POW flag. There's an order to how you can put those flags up here. There'd be one here.
Wall.
Correct. So we'd have one on the sidewall each, and then 2 in the center.
I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think that, we've gone to an extent on making this chambers better and better and better as we go, and I think that now that screen is no longer gonna be used. So, and it's, dress this room up. I think $500, $600 isn't even something that she even brought up to us, but I think it's good.
I originally wanted to paint that wall blue, but we went against that. And I was going to go blue with white writing, but after sitting down with a lot of the staff, they were like, maybe we should leave the wall white and go blue lettering. I was like, hey, I think that was actually Miss Brooks that brought that up, and I actually had to pat her on the back for that one. So are we okay with doing that?
I guess that's probably, I mean, you asked us, we gave you permission to make a $500 decision anyway, so we're not much over that, and I'd be fine with it, so. What are we gonna do with that sign? That would look like, pretty good in my garage, I was thinking, but
Go good on your truck as you're driving down the road.
that would be cool too, yeah.
This one sitting out here.
Oh, on that one?
Along with those illegal chickens.
I'm sure that one would go in Miss Wood's office or my office, or
Maybe in the front. I don't know if we have any logos up front. Maybe we could put it in
you
the
could put it
front.
somewhere else. Absolutely. We'll find a
And
place
we
for
will
it.
do our best to patch that without having to repaint that wall to keep the savings down, but we have not pulled that off of the wall yet, so we do need to fill the holes, otherwise that,
Luck.
hopefully it'll be covered by the flag, but just so you know that.
Good luck, Public Works.
Okay. And so do we want, I don't know if this does necessarily need to go to council. Do we want it to go to council to change the look of it with that, or just, no, okay.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think we already act like Mr. Gordon said, that we've already given them the go-ahead at $500 or less without having to come for council approval. And this isn't much more over that. I just said, let's go for it.
We do have funds. I mean, it is under the $500 threshold anyways. I don't know if it'll come out of Muni Building or council. I'll look into it, but it is under that $500 threshold.
I don't think we need to bring it in. I don't think it needs to come to council. Just do it, in my opinion.
Agree, Councilman Gordon, Councilman Burgley? It's good to me. Are we good, Miss Wood?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn by Councilman Lundin. Second?
I'll second it.
A second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Therefore, we stand adjourned.